You're listening to the Retire Coast podcast, where money, business, and lifestyle come together. Join us each week as we explore smarter financial planning, starting and growing businesses, and building the life you want at every stage, from millennials and Gen X to today's retirees.
Thank you for returning. We're going to discuss today a topic that is very extensive for those of you that are considering the possibility of relocating now, or for a job perhaps, or relocating for retirement, or just trying to get out of town because it's just too expensive and there's too much crime and all of those other things we keep hearing about on TV, which actually are real for many people. Or you have some children that you want to put into a better school somewhere else where you know they're going to get a good education. So this article is all about relocating and all the aspects of it. You know, it's a big decision for many people to do that, especially if they have a family. And we want you to know every facet of relocating. And this is the longest article that we have ever published. It is approximately 20,000 words. It takes a while to get through, but what we've done is salt it with lots of goodies. There are lists that you can download. There's a podcast in there, this one, for example, so you can listen to this if you want to. And there are all kinds of other factoids in there that you can check with. And we have covered everything from the community and the schools and the crime and the politics and all of the different things that you need to think about. And like I said, you can use some of our checklists in there and plan your move if that's what you want to do. And maybe you don't want to do the move after you read our article and do all the things that are necessary to make sure that you're making the right decision. So we want you to listen to this dialogue that we have presented for you. And it's going to take you a little while to get through, but I think it's well worth it. And please go to retirecoast.com and listen to or actually read our blog site and check out the article itself. We can't transmit some of the goodies to you over the air as we're speaking. So if you go there, you'll find out it's going to be worth your time. There are also many links to other articles that we have. This is what's called a pillar article, which means that it's in-depth, it's long, it's got everything in it, but it's just not complete in the sense that we'll pick a topic, for example, such as politics, okay? And we mention how to find out whether the area is conservative or liberal and other things related to that, the tax policies and those things. But you might want more on that. So we're going to write another article about that and about many, many things that are listed in here. We'll write other articles. So basically, when you read through this, you'll be able to say, oh, hey, that's interesting, and I'm going to click on that, and you'll go in and you'll get more information from the other article. We don't want to bore everyone with all the details because this would end up being a book, which it will be, by the way, but at least it'll be broken down so you can see it. Now, there's a very large table of contents at the beginning, and you can click on anything on the table of contents, so you're not required to read the entire article, although I think it's well worthwhile. If you do, you're going to learn a lot. We put a lot of research into this, and it took days and days and days to be able to compile this and put it together for you. So please listen to what we have to say here, and if you're intrigued by anything that you're going to hear in just a minute, then please go to retirecoast.com and leave us comments here on our page or also on the homepage or on any one of our pages in Retire Coast. Thank you for coming.
If you are one of the millions of people who have felt that, that low-grade hum of anxiety, that persistent question in the back of your mind wondering if you should pick up your entire life and move, the feeling of being utterly drowned in information.
It's overwhelming.
It is. You're trying to balance career stability, the crushing weight of housing costs, school quality, personal safety, and ultimately this deep, desperate desire for a more intentional, less stressful life.
It really is the single biggest financial and emotional decision most families will ever face.
And because the decision is so huge, the research just feels endless.
Right.
You end up scrolling through listings in a state you've never even visited, comparing these complex tax rates you barely get your head around, and getting lost in conflicting headlines.
It's analysis paralysis.
Totally. So today we are diving deep. We've synthesized a comprehensive framework for evaluating relocation, pulling out the most actionable data, the most surprising financial leverage points, and critically, the necessary psychological insights.
And our goal for this deep dive is really simple.
It is to give you a clear, objective process, a true shortcut, really, to move past the noise and figure out what is right for your future. Okay, let's unpack this. To make this analytical discussion less abstract and, more relatable, we're going to follow the journey of a real-world couple we've been tracking, Jessica and Harry.
I think their story is a perfect example.
It really is. They are a Gen X couple. They're in their mid-40s. They have 2 kids, Susie, who is 8, and Billy, who is 10.
So right in the thick of it with school and activities.
Exactly. Jessica is a dedicated teacher, but she also loves creative projects, and she deeply, deeply values community engagement. Harry is an electrical engineer. He's focused on career stability, but his true relaxation is found in, problem solving and finding time for weekend fishing trips.
A very relatable set of priorities.
Their mission was something we hear constantly. They needed genuine financial stability, affordability, better long-term school options, guaranteed safety, and a quality of life that didn't feel like a constant, exhausting hustle.
And they weren't chasing the hot destinations, right? The ones you see in all the magazines.
Not at all. They weren't after the trendiest spots. They were seeking a life that was sustainable, affordable, and intentional for the next 2 decades. A life that included the capacity to build wealth and retire without panic.
And that's the key.
It is. Their experience provides the anchor framework we'll be using to organize this entire deep dive for you.
What's truly fascinating and what their story really highlights is how multifaceted the decision to move is.
Right. It's never just one thing.
Never. Relocation is almost never triggered by a single factor. It's the convergence of, financial pressure, lifestyle dissatisfaction, family needs, and long-term goals that finally forces the decision.
It's like a pot finally boiling over.
Exactly. And our mission today is precisely to break those convergent factors down into a practical, actionable framework, allowing you to evaluate your options objectively rather than just emotionally.
So where do we start?
Well, the U.S. Census Bureau is really consistent on this. They show that affordability, job opportunities, quality of life, and cultural comfort are the top 4 reasons people move.
The big 4.
The big 4. And if you can use relocation to solve for all 4 of those simultaneously, you gain this transformative power over your daily stress, your financial future, and your long-term legacy.
But you have to start somewhere.
You do. And you must start with the anchor. And that anchor is almost always money. Why must money be the essential first filter for relocation?
Because it touches everything else.
It touches everything else. Financial stability is the foundation upon which every other decision rests. If you don't solve the financial equation first, every choice you make, which school district you can afford, which career opportunities you can pursue, where you can afford to invest, and whether you can retire on time, is constrained.
You're starting from a place of can't instead of can.
Precisely. And for many families stuck in major urban centers right now, relocating isn't just a way to, save a bit of money. It is often the difference between constantly stressing about making ends meet and actually enjoying a much higher quality of life.
I think a lot of people feel that right now.
They do. High housing costs have become so prohibitive in certain jurisdictions that moving to a lower-cost state is the only meaningful path toward financial stability. The data confirms this over and over again.
So what are people citing as the main reason?
Income tax, astronomical home prices, property tax, and overall affordability. Those are the main reasons people cite when they choose to leave their current area. This isn't just about moving to a bigger house. It's about shifting the trajectory of your entire financial life.
And that's exactly where we need to introduce the hard data it really changes the entire conversation. We need to define and use the cost of living index, or COLI.
It's the best starting point.
It really is. For 2025, the U.S. national average is set at 100. It's a clean benchmark. Anything above 100, costs are higher than average. Below 100, they are lower. Simple.
Right. It gives you an immediate frame of reference.
Let's look at the extremes, because this contrast, it just defines the opportunity. On the high end of the spectrum, you have Hawaii, which stands at an eye-watering 185.80.
So 85% more expensive than the national average.
Exactly. Then you have California, a major driver of American culture, at 142.3. That means the baseline cost of living in California is already over 42% higher than the rest of the nation.
Which is a huge hurdle to overcome before you even pay taxes.
A huge hurdle. Now, flip the script and look at the low-cost end of the spectrum, which is where Jessica and Harry landed. Mississippi is at 87.3, and Oklahoma is slightly lower at 86.3.
So we're talking about roughly 13 to 14% cheaper than the national average.
I found one calculation in the source material that was genuinely mind-blowing, and this is the crucial ratio that unlocks the financial leverage for you. If you objectively compare California at 142.3 to Mississippi at 87.3, okay? California is roughly 63% more expensive than Mississippi. We're not talking about 5% or 10%. We are talking about 2/3 more expensive just to maintain the same baseline standard of living. I mean, 63%. That's the financial leverage we're talking about, and it transforms your purchasing power immediately.
That 63% cost difference, it immediately shifts the math from abstract index points to concrete, actionable purchasing power.
So let's make it real. How does that play out for someone?
Okay, let's use a $70,000 salary example to show what that ratio means in your wallet.
Perfect.
Imagine you have Harry, the electrical engineer, earning $70,000 in Mississippi, where the cost of living is 87.3.
Okay.
If Harry wanted to move to California and maintain the exact same purchasing power, meaning he could still buy the same amount of groceries, afford the same type of car, and pay the same relative amount for his mortgage.
To just break even, lifestyle-wise.
Just to break even. He would need approximately $114,100 in salary in California.
Wow, that's over $44,000 more?
Just to tread water. You need 63% more income just to stay in the same place financially. Now reverse that math. The $70,000 salary Harry earns in Vancleave, Mississippi, buys what $114,100 buys in California?
So his money is working that much harder for him.
Dramatically harder. That difference isn't just significant. It means that family can accumulate discretionary savings, invest in real estate, or simply reduce that daily grinding stress about money.
That's a staggering difference, but the expert notes add a crucial caveat. These indices are statewide averages.
Right, very important.
And critically, they do not include state or local taxes. So depending on the fiscal health of the region you choose, that 63% advantage could actually be even larger.
That's a great point, because the COLI misses the long-term risk associated with the fiscal health of the region.
Okay, and that's where tax policy comes in.
That's where tax policy becomes much more important than people realize. For someone planning their long-term retirement or living on a fixed income, tax predictability is everything.
It's not just the rate today, it's what it will be in 10 or 20 years.
Exactly. When evaluating a relocation, you have to look beyond the listing price and ask, what is the median home price in my target neighborhood? What are the state and local income taxes? And, most importantly, what are the property tax laws? And how often do they increase?
You don't want any surprises.
You don't. If you relocate to a jurisdiction known for high tax and spend policies, where unfunded liabilities are rampant.
Okay, can you just break down unfunded liabilities for us? What does that really mean for the average person?
Absolutely. Think of it like a credit card bill for a state or city. It's primarily pensions for government workers or long-term infrastructure maintenance that governments have committed to.
To promises they've made.
Promises they've made, but they haven't saved the money to cover them. When those bills come due, they often have two choices: cut services dramatically, or raise taxes aggressively on the remaining tax base, meaning residents and businesses.
So if you move into a place with a lot of that debt,
you're essentially signing up to pay off the previous generation's borrowing. That means your property taxes or income taxes may face severe increases down the line, regardless of your personal economic situation.
So you're looking for fiscal responsibility.
You are. Many people today relocate specifically to environments where fiscal responsibility and predictable tax environments are prioritized. Now, let's bring it back to the specific example of property tax reassessment in Mississippi, which is crucial for long-term budgeting.
Okay.
Counties there are legally required to reassess properties only every 4 years.
So you know what to expect.
You have a very predictable cycle. Now, they can do it more often, but sticking to that predictable 4-year cycle gives stability. Contrast that with states that authorize annual property tax increases of, say, 1.5% to 2% yearly, regardless of whether the home has been reassessed or the market has moved.
That slow, steady creep.
That yearly creep. The death by 1,000 cuts that can severely impact retirees or people on a fixed income. The 4-year cycle offers necessary budgeting accuracy and, frankly, peace of mind.
It also requires us to look at this whole issue with a really candid perspective.
Mm-hmm.
The data suggests that affordability is often a personal decision, not solely a government or market one.
What do you mean by that?
Well, we have to acknowledge that for many families, relocating to a lower cost area is the only viable, meaningful solution to the massive housing and financial pressures they face.
Right. It's the one variable they can control.
Exactly. Yet studies show that many young people who can relocate and solve their core affordability issues often do not, staying in high-cost areas that prevent them from ever getting ahead.
There's an inertia there.
There is. Relocating to a region with lower housing costs is often the decisive action that gives you immediate power over your financial future, rather than waiting for years for local market dynamics or government intervention to solve a problem that might be fundamentally unsolvable in that specific geographic area. Which brings us naturally into Section 3, housing and real estate. It follows financials because housing is the single biggest determinant of your monthly outlay and, therefore, your financial health.
Housing is far more than just shelter. It is the anchor for so many secondary life factors.
Right, it's not just a roof.
Not at all. It dictates personal comfort. It defines the quality of schools your children attend. It establishes the safety of your immediate community. And it is almost always the single largest wealth-building asset you possess.
And when housing gets out of control.
When housing costs go out of control, as they have in many major metros, all of those secondary factors suffer.
The sources highlight exactly why this issue is pushing people like Jessica and Harry out. Rising prices, high taxes, limited housing inventory, and just the mental and physical drain of constant traffic push people to seek a fresh start.
And for them, the catalyst was immediate.
It was. For Jessica and Harry, their housing catalyst was the most immediate financial relief. The cost of their new home in Vancleave, Mississippi, was less than half what they were paying for a smaller, older home in their former metro city.
Selling high and buying low. It's the classic move.
It's the single most powerful tool an average family has to generate immediate, life-changing capital.
And that capital isn't just for breathing room. It fundamentally changes their wealth-building capacity.
So it's not just about spending less, it's about being able to invest more.
Precisely. When you analyze real estate investments, relocation to a lower-cost market fundamentally shifts the viability of becoming a successful investor.
How so?
Think about the difficulty of achieving positive cash flow in a place like coastal California or New York.
And positive cash flow is just rent is more than your costs.
Exactly. The money you bring in from rent is greater than all your monthly expenses, your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, or PITI. In high-cost areas, achieving that often requires a massive down payment, sometimes purchasing the property all cash just to break even monthly because taxes and maintenance are so high.
So just to be clear, you're saying that the goal of using real estate to generate wealth through monthly income is virtually extinct for the average person in high-cost metros.
For the average person relying on a mortgage, yes. The math simply doesn't work. But the real shift in lower-cost markets is that you can get off the sidelines entirely.
So for Jessica and Harry,
by moving, they liberated significant capital. They might need $300,000 down for one property that barely breaks even in their old city. In an environment like Vancleave, that same capital might buy them 3 rental properties outright, or allow them to finance 3 properties that generate actual, robust monthly cash flow.
You're spreading your risk and accelerating your wealth.
That diversification of risk and accelerated wealth creation is a key reason many savvy investors are targeting growing smaller towns. You get lower entry costs, often more favorable landlord laws, and high rental demand fueled by the very economic decentralization we will discuss next.
Right.
But we have to issue a strong warning here.
Okay, what's the catch?
Never focus solely on the listing price. That is a trap. Ongoing costs are crucial and can negate initial savings.
So you can't just look at the Zillow price.
No. When evaluating a potential home, you must run the numbers on all the ancillary costs. This includes the property tax assessment frequency we talked about, the cost of homeowners insurance, and if you are near a coast or river, the crucial and often forgotten premiums for wind insurance and flood insurance.
That makes perfect sense. A low purchase price in a high-tax, high-insurance market, say, right on the coast, where hurricane insurance is mandatory and costly, can cost more monthly than a slightly higher-priced home just 45 minutes inland in a lower-risk zone.
Absolutely. You have to use the full PITI calculation when comparing regions. A lot of people fall in love with a listing price and forget that a low-cost purchase in a market with extremely high and volatile insurance rates can destroy their budget instantly.
So the goal is long-term stability.
Always. And the full monthly payment, PITI, is the only metric that matters.
Moving on to Section 4, employment, education, and economic shifts. Employment remains a fundamental driver for relocation, but the nature of opportunity itself it's fundamentally changed in the last 5 years.
That is the key observation driving modern migration. The major trend is simple. Opportunity is moving aggressively into America's heartland.
Not just to the coasts anymore.
Not at all.
Huh.
We are seeing trillions of dollars in federal and private investment flowing into non-traditional metro areas. We're talking about advanced manufacturing, like the massive semiconductor fabrication plants, aerospace and defense technologies, electric vehicle production, and complex logistics hubs.
So high-skilled jobs.
High-quality jobs. Jobs that require engineers like Harry are increasingly flowing to mid-sized cities, smaller cities, and rural communities that offer lower labor costs, better land availability, and often significant state-level tax incentives.
So that old model is breaking down.
That old model of crowding into San Francisco, New York, or Boston for top-tier employment is fading. People can now find fantastic career paths in the communities they truly want to live in.
And the remote work revolution just supercharged this decoupling of location and salary, turning that economic decentralization into a personal advantage.
It was a historic shift.
It was. Remote and hybrid work arrangements gave people the ability to choose their home based on lifestyle, not just proximity to a single office tower.
And the benefits are profound.
They are. You can keep a big city salary while living in a small town. You can choose a lower tax environment. You can afford a significantly larger home. And you watch your money go further in every daily transaction, from gas to groceries.
This single factor has been the engine driving migration into states like Tennessee, Idaho, Texas, and, yes, even Mississippi and Alabama.
And for Jessica and Harry, their move had to be practical. Harry, the electrical engineer, needed a robust regional job market. Not necessarily a huge one, but one with multiple large employers who valued his specific skills.
Right, he needed options.
And Jessica, the teacher, needed excellent K-12 schools for her own career growth, professional satisfaction, and most importantly, for Susie and Billy.
And they found success because the economic dynamics supported their need for dual careers. The Vancleave region sits near the Gulf Coast, which has seen substantial investment in defense, shipbuilding, and energy.
So Harry found work quickly.
He found immediate, stable engineering opportunities. And because strong local schools attract those high-value employers, Jessica found an established and well-regarded public school system where she could continue teaching.
So their decision really validated this idea?
It did. It validated the idea that if you align your skills with emerging regional economic hubs that offer low costs of living, your chances of success just skyrocket. This brings us to education quality, which is vital for everyone, regardless of whether you have school-age children or not.
Why is that?
A community's commitment to education K-12 and higher ed is a direct reflection of its civic health, and it impacts long-term property values and neighborhood stability.
So it's an investment signal.
It's a huge investment signal. The insight here, especially for Gen X families like Jessica and Harry, who are concerned with future home resale, is that choosing a community with strong, invested schools acts as insulation.
Insulation against market downturns.
Exactly. Strong schools attract steady demand from other stable families and signal community commitment, helping home values hold firm even during broader market swings. Buyers prioritize school districts, and that sustained appeal is an investment strategy in itself.
So how do we evaluate quality beyond the simple headline test scores?
You have to dig deeper. The sources suggest looking at several key metrics: student-to-teacher ratios, which dramatically impact individualized attention.
The actual classroom experience.
Right. Then the quality of extracurriculars, especially STEM programs, which predict future economic success, arts and music programs, and the overall level of parental involvement and community fundraising.
Because that shows people are invested.
It indicates commitment. Mm-hmm. And a strong school system eases the transition for children, which is crucial. If Susie and Billy quickly build friendships and adapt to their new routines, the entire relocation is more likely to be a long-term success for the whole family's mental health.
Now we move into a section that often gets mired in, generalization and emotion. Safety, climate, and the necessary separation of daily reality from whatever shocking headlines you might read written by someone thousands of miles away.
When families talk about safety, they aren't usually referencing national FBI crime rankings.
No, it's more personal than that.
It's about lived reality. The peace of mind that allows them to let their kids ride their bikes down the street, feeling comfortable walking home from a Friday night game, and having a stable, predictable, low-stress community life.
The day-to-day feeling.
Exactly. You also need to understand a statistical pitfall called the small population effect.
Okay, what's that?
Crime statistics are often wildly misleading in small towns because a single, isolated incident can dramatically skew per capita rates.
Because the denominator is so small.
Precisely. If a town of 1,500 people has 2 serious, non-repeat crimes in a year, its crime rate per 100,000 residents will mathematically look astronomical, potentially even higher than a large metro. But those same 2 incidents in a large city would barely register.
So it looks dangerous on paper, but it doesn't feel that way.
Right. This volatility makes small towns look statistically dangerous on paper, when the local reality is stable, predictable, and remarkably safe on a day-to-day basis.
And that rings so true for Jessica and Harry. Their catalyst for moving wasn't just a number on a chart. It was a pattern of erosion that changed the feeling of stability in their old neighborhood.
It was what they were seeing with their own eyes.
It was. They experienced a daylight robbery just 4 doors down, a car stolen from a nearby garage, and Jessica personally observed 2 men attempting to break into a neighbor's car one evening.
That's a lot of incidents in a short period of time.
It is. And individually, those are just incidents, but together they amounted to a complete loss of the sense of stability and predictability they took for granted.
The peace of mind was gone.
It was gone. That personal observed pattern was the tipping point that drove their search for a quieter, small-town environment where the rhythm of life felt stable again, regardless of how a high-level statistical chart might categorize that region.
Next, let's discuss climate. Climate is a significant lifestyle factor. It dictates recreation opportunities, affects physical health, and critically, it shapes housing costs through insurance and utility bills.
So you have to be realistic about it.
Yeah, it has to be. When evaluating a move, you absolutely need a balanced, pragmatic view of natural risks.
And the reality is that every single region of the United States has inherent natural risks. You are simply choosing which risks you are willing to manage.
That's the perfect way to put it.
If you live on the Gulf Coast, you manage hurricane risk through proper construction and insurance. If you live in the Midwest, you manage tornado risk. If you live in California,
wildfires and earthquakes.
And if you live in the Northeast, you manage paralyzing snow and ice risks.
The key is not avoiding all risk, which is impossible, but understanding and managing the risk. For instance, in coastal areas, you must budget not just for standard homeowners insurance, but for separate, potentially expensive policies for wind and flood coverage.
And you have to do that before you buy?
Understanding these specific insurance needs before buying a home is absolutely mandatory.
And on a subject of climate, we have to tackle the perceived horror of humidity in the South and Southeast. It's one of the most misunderstood relocation factors.
It really is an issue of perception versus adaptation. First, humidity exists everywhere, including the upper Midwest in the summer.
That's true.
Second, modern air conditioning is highly efficient. Interiors, homes, offices, cars, grocery stores are universally comfortable. Indoor life is largely unaffected.
So you live in the AC?
To a degree. But furthermore, the peak humidity is highly seasonal, usually limited to 3 or 4 months. Residents simply adjust their schedules.
So you're not playing tennis at 2 p.m. in July?
Exactly. Instead of intense outdoor activities in the middle of a July afternoon, they move them to the cooler, drier parts of the day or the 8 months of the year when the climate is highly pleasant. This adjustment allows people to live and thrive in these regions, making climate a factor to manage, just like snow or extreme cold, not an insurmountable deal breaker.
A critical part of successful relocation, which Jessica and Harry learned, is the absolute power of first-hand research and rejecting generalizations.
You cannot rely on headlines.
You can't. We are so used to seeing nationwide rankings. State X is 48th in healthcare, or State Y is statistically the most dangerous, that we often miss the local reality.
Those statewide averages are almost never useful decision tools.
They're too broad.
They are. Take the specific case of healthcare in Mississippi. The widespread perception of poor statewide healthcare ignores the regional reality of the Gulf Coast, which is where Jessica and Harry settled.
And what's the reality there?
This region hosts multiple massive hospital systems, a major VA facility, and the Keesler Air Force Base medical system. These institutions attract highly qualified doctors, top specialists, and advanced technologies, making the quality of care excellent, often on par with major metros, despite state-level averages being dragged down by remote rural areas hundreds of miles away.
So the local reality is completely different from the state average.
Completely. And rankings often prioritize metrics like nightlife density, the number of Michelin-starred restaurants, or mass transit usage that don't reflect the true factors critical for long-term family quality of life.
Things like safety, community, schools.
Exactly. The ultimate lesson here is that 2 or 3 long, intentional scouting trips, talking to locals, walking neighborhoods, and visualizing your daily life are essential because the local reality often differs dramatically from national stereotypes and averages.
Shifting to Section 6, Lifestyle, Belonging, and Emotional Fit. This is a section where the long-term success of the move truly hinges. Once you've sorted the PITI, the taxes, and the jobs, you have to answer the most important question. Will I actually be happy there?
This is the emotional core of the decision. Long-term satisfaction depends heavily on the lifestyle, cultural fit, and pace of life, which are the ultimate predictors of mental health and daily stress levels.
It's all about fit.
It is. The goal is finding a place that aligns with your personality, your values, and the kind of social connection you crave. If the cultural fit is wrong, no amount of financial savings will make you stay.
So where do you even start with that?
Start by creating a detailed amenity checklist. Don't just list adult amenities like golf courses, fitness centers, or dining options. You must focus on the children's amenities because those are the gateways to building a new social circle for the whole family.
Because if the kids aren't happy, nobody's happy.
Nobody is happy. Do they have strong youth sports leagues? Are there local 4-H scouting or STEM clubs? Is there a community theater? These activities are crucial to helping Susie and Billy integrate and become happy in their new home.
And this is where smaller communities really shine compared to anonymous large cities.
Yeah.
In many small towns, social cohesion is significantly stronger.
There's a different feel.
There is. Neighbors talk, they wave, and when newcomers arrive, they are noticed, welcomed, and often actively invited into the social fabric.
It makes it much easier to build connections.
It does. This environment greatly aids in building those deeper, authentic friendships that are so often missing in large, highly transient metros, where neighbors often don't even know each other's names. Jessica's cultural discovery is a perfect illustration of this integration. She didn't just move to Vancleave, she actively sought out community. She found a true sense of belonging and an extended family by integrating into the local Mardi Gras tradition, specifically the Mystic Crew of Pine Island.
So she got involved in something unique to the area.
Exactly. By using her creative talents and organizational skills to help with float building and event planning, she became an indispensable part of a long-standing tradition. She found a sense of community, purpose, and deep social satisfaction that she didn't realize she had lost in her previous high-pressure environment.
And for Harry, his sense of place was confirmed by a smaller but equally powerful realization.
What was it for him?
Harry's goal was community and predictability. He found it at Cox's Barbershop.
A barbershop.
An old-fashioned, multi-generational place where the men knew each other, talked about high school football scores, and discussed local events. When the barber, without having to ask his name, called out, "Harry, you're up next," that simple, authentic moment of recognition confirmed the community feel he was craving.
It's those little moments.
Belonging comes in many sizes, from big traditions like Mardi Gras to those simple daily interactions that confirm you are seen and known. We must also impartially report on the growing factor of political climate.
This has become a much bigger deal recently.
It has. Analysis, including that cited in Newsweek, confirms that political compatibility has become a crucial driver in relocation decisions. People are increasingly seeking a community culture where they feel comfortable expressing their views or raising their children without facing constant conflict or hostility.
So it's not about finding an echo chamber, necessarily.
Not necessarily. It's more about seeking a respectful community culture. They want to find a place where neighbors treat each other kindly, regardless of who they voted for, where civility reigns, and where intense, divisive shouting matches are rare.
A place with less emotional friction.
Exactly. Emotional comfort and lifestyle alignment are, in the end, major predictors of whether a relocation is a long-term success, directly leading to reduced stress and an increased capacity for joy.
The final emotional hurdle for almost everyone considering a move like this is leaving extended family.
It's a huge one.
People worry that distance will automatically weaken those bonds. But the key insight that came through the sources is that proximity is not the same as connection.
Can you say more about that?
Well, think about it. Stressful commutes, crushing work schedules, and the sheer expense of high-pressure city life often limit quality time, even when relatives live nearby. Visits become short, rushed, and stressful.
You're close, but you never really see each other.
Right. And Jessica and Harry experienced a powerful shift. By relocating to a destination area, one near the beach, and with excellent fishing, their new home became a vacation spot for their extended family.
So the dynamic changed entirely. They now have fewer, but significantly longer, more intentional, and higher quality visits. Relatives can now stay for a week instead of just 2 rushed hours on a Sunday afternoon.
And they planned for this.
They were strategic about it. They future-proofed their move by buying a larger 4-bedroom, 3-bath home. This family-centered choice, enabled by the lower cost of living, meant they could easily and comfortably accommodate long-term visitors, effectively strengthening bonds rather than weakening them. So to synthesize everything we've covered, the powerful transformation available through intentional relocation is absolutely real.
It's not a myth.
Not at all. It solves crippling affordability issues, it improves family safety and stability, it grants immediate financial freedom through dramatically lower costs, and it provides a path to community belonging that many people realize they were sorely missing in anonymous big cities.
It's a total reset.
It is. The core lesson from Jessica and Harry's deep dive is this. You are not just choosing a new street address or a new state. You are actively choosing and designing the lifestyle you will live for the next 20 to 30 years. It is a fundamental opportunity to reset and design the life you truly want to inhabit.
So if you recognize yourself in Jessica and Harry's story, the time has come to move from research and absorption to concrete action. We've given you the framework. Now here are the simple next steps distilled from their journey.
Action is key.
It is. First, you must immediately use the cost of living calculators we discussed to define the financial foundation of your potential move. Calculate that ratio, that 63% difference, and understand how much extra income, how much purchasing power you could gain just by changing your location.
Define the financial foundation first.
Second, use the relocation priorities checklist suggested by the source material to objectively compare your options. This checklist is critical because it forces you to score factors like schools, taxes, crime rates, and cultural fit side by side.
It takes the emotion out of it.
It turns what feels like an overwhelming emotional decision into a manageable, logical exercise, making the necessary trade-offs obvious. Third, and perhaps most crucial, plan a scouting trip. This must be an intentional trip, not just a sightseeing tour.
Boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground. Frame it as a family vacation, but make sure you visit potential schools, talk to local real estate agents, sit and observe traffic, and most importantly, talk to locals. Walk the neighborhoods and genuinely try to visualize what your daily life, not your vacation life, would look like there.
That firsthand experience is irreplaceable.
It will always matter infinitely more than any online ranking or newspaper headline. The journey of Jessica and Harry emphasizes a fundamental truth. They ultimately chose Vancleave, Mississippi, not because it was the trendiest or highest ranked location on any national list, but because it was the right place for them.
It fit their checklist.
It was the right, achievable mix of safety, affordability, community, and schools that aligned perfectly with their specific needs. We leave you with this final provocative thought to consider tonight. What kind of life do you truly want to design for yourself? And what kind of financial, natural, or emotional risks are you willing to manage in exchange for the peace, the security, and the deep, authentic sense of belonging that Jessica and Harry ultimately found?
Your new chapter begins with that answer.